there, the researcher and that brief should be able to speak for itself. Finally, I liked the way that you used the video. She used the animation. These are good resources, but they also must communicate. For example, yours was very good, but you see it had issues. So before you said it to the intended audience, make sure that it is clear, that it is communicating. This other one, the animation was a brilliant idea, but at least it needed a little bit of refinement. It shouldn't come in the way. Those excellent alternative tools should not come in the way of the message that you want to communicate. Yeah, but thank you and well done.
Should I go? Okay, thank you so much. My name is Uche Nan from Research Hall, and I want to first of all thank our able doctors for the wonderful presentation, because I believe that for every country to move forward, there should be insightful data that is gearing towards policy, because it is the policy that shapes every nation, every society, even in a family. Policy is very important. But I just want to make a few comments and maybe a question. Both of you alluded to the issue of mismatch. You talk about mismatch, DI and international collaboration. And we know the critical problem of Africa, which is language barrier. Okay? In looking at your work, how do you think from the policy angle, from bilateral collaboration angle, an agreement between countries, can South Africa and other African countries address this issue? Because if South Africa wants to collaborate with university or researchers from his country, there's already a language barrier. How do they address that? That's my first question. I'll keep that. That question actually just came up based on this we witness now. Okay, to Dr. Rusia. She talked about WIL, which is work integrated learning, and connecting it to what my brother said here, I will actually beg to disagree a little bit that there is a serious mismatch in Africa. Being an educator and a trainer, somebody who is really interested in bridging this gap, I notice it all the time. Yes, but the problem I think here is, yes, these things are passed through the industrial partners, but are they doing justice to it? To ensure that what is being taught actually matches what they are doing, and again, and at the rapid rate they are moving. That's another thing again. Maybe because of the bottleneck bureaucracies and everything, they've already spoken to a curriculum that aligns. But before it goes through all these processes and for it to be approved, the world has moved on. How are we addressing that from the policy approval point of view? Because that's another problem of industrial PhD. Industrial PhD. All their PhDs are from the industry and not from the academy. Okay? They are doing something that is direct. Then finally, in Africa, we have a lot of companies funding research. Why are they not absorbing those they funded? That's another question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce the next presenter. Dr. Mpumelelo Rikhotso, please come up. Dr. Mpumelelo is a microbiologist specializing in infectious diseases, antimicrobial resistance, and public health. As a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Venda, his work focuses on drug-resistant tuberculosis, antimicrobial resistance surveillance, and the One Health approach to zoonotic disease transmission. He has contributed to national and international research initiatives on waterborne pathogens, enteric bacteria, and neglected tropical diseases.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to see you all here. And I would like to express, my my appreciation to the facilitators, Refile Mashiko and Dr. Sobane, who taught me everything about, policy brief. Thank you. So I'm going to give a policy brief on distinguishing between tuberculosis and the non-tuberculous, mycobacterium. So you should think of, the non-tuberculous mycobacterium versus the mycobacterium tuberculosis as identical twins. If you were to see twins that are identical, you wouldn't be able to distinguish between, the two. However, you could only be able to distinguish between the two through their genetic makeup. So, So we all know that tuberculosis remains a concern, not only in South Africa, but globally, And it accounts for many deaths annually. And it is difficult to manage if not handled properly. So we are seeing a rise in infections being caused by the non-tuberculous mycobacterium, which, I've just mentioned that, it's identical to the mycobacterium tuberculosis. And the current, routine diagnostic approach that we are using cannot be able to tell the difference in terms of the genetic makeup of the non-tuberculous mycobacterium versus the mycobacterium tuberculosis. So if someone goes to hospital and they're being diagnosed, we're using a gold standard method where they prepare a culture, they take the sputum, and they view under the microscope. And they would say, oh, this is testing positive. But only to find that, that is not actually the mycobacterium tuberculosis. However, rather the twin of the mycobacterium that is, present on that slide. So there is a challenge in terms of differentiation between the two strains, and this results in misdiagnosis, as well as, leading, to treatment failures, high treatment failures, by the way. So there's an urgent need for us to improve in terms of our routine diagnostic approach, train our healthcare workers, as well as, to increase public awareness, because most people are not even aware of this. So this policy brief, seeks to integrate, the NTM management into the current, routine diagnostic protocols that are available out there. So, as I've mentioned, coming to the relevance of this policy brief, we have diagnostic limitations. Yes, of course, our government have done so much in terms of, trying to combat tuberculosis. We've made advancements towards, when you look back where we're coming from in terms of detecting the presence of tuberculosis and identifying them. But there's a problem because the advancements that we've made cannot still differentiate between the two different mycobacterial species. So this leads to high rate of treatment failures and management of TB patients. So since we've made so much advancements in terms of rolling out the gene experts, the NHLS, working in the healthcare facilities, trying to ensure that there's a detection of TB, much faster way, because way in the past we used to spend so much time in terms of detecting the presence of tuberculosis when someone comes to the healthcare facility. It would take up to like 4 weeks for a person, to be confirmed whether they have TB or not. But nowadays, because they've rolled out the gene expert, we can tell within the first 2 hours, if one reports to the healthcare facility, we can, simply determine whether they're having TB or not. But then still, even with this advanced technology, this technology cannot distinguish between, the non-tuberculous and the Mycobacterium tuberculosis strains. So this threatens progress, and if we don't address this, we will miss out when it comes to meeting the targets set by the WTB and the World Health Organization by 2030, which seeks to eliminate TB completely. So we need to act, and we need to act now. We need to strengthen our diagnostics. We need to train our clinicians, our healthcare practitioners, because when doing our research work, we normally engage with them, and you find that they're not even aware that there are high levels of non-tuberculous Mycobacterium, and people are put on the wrong medication, and they're being told that you're not responding to the medication, only to find that they're just taking the wrong medication. So that's how serious it is. So what are some of the key issues and challenges? There's an overlap in terms of these two mycobacterial species. They cannot be differentiated. It's not easy to differentiate them unless if you're using much more advanced tools to ensure that you are dealing with the right species. So we also have the diagnostic gaps. What we're using is not enough to distinguish between the two. Inappropriate treatments. So if one is misdiagnosed, obviously you'll be given the wrong treatment, and it's not going to work. It's only going to lead to a treatment failure. And we've got systemic burden. The more people are misdiagnosed, high costs. There are high costs to the healthcare facilities, and the patient outcomes are not good. So we need to enhance the capacity of diagnosis. We can, employ new and much advanced technologies such as the next generation sequencing, which can be able to distinguish between, these species and ensure that, the management of these patients are proper. We also need to expand the culture-based practice that we're using. So currently we're using a gold standard method. So we take the sputum sample, and then we put it on a plate, grow it, and view it under a light microscope. And then we'll see some growth of the bacilli. But then just viewing the bacilli under the microscope is not enough, because the shape or the appearance of the Mycobacterium tuberculosis as well as the non-tuberculous Mycobacterium are the same. Hence I was saying that you look at them, take them as twins. So if you cannot differentiate through that method, it means that that method is not good enough. It needs to be revised. So we can conduct workshops on our healthcare facility workers, and also integrate, this NTM management into our current TB protocols. That will be very, very, very useful. And we can also establish a national NTM monitoring system through the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, which keeps track of what is happening in terms of diseases in our country. That could also help. So there's some evidence when it comes to this occurrence of NTMs. There's a study that we did in Limpopo between the years 2023 and 2024, whereby we enrolled about 50 TB patients that were suffering from TB, that were taking TB treatment. And we found a high prevalence, about 66% of patients that were thought to be suffering from tuberculosis, but only to find that they are not suffering from tuberculosis, they are suffering from the non-tuberculous Mycobacterium. And among those, you had around 26% of them suffering from normal TB, and 8% suffering from drug-resistant tuberculosis. So we saw a low rate of drug resistance in the region, but there was a high level of NTM. And this meant that these people were being misdiagnosed. And these findings are in line with some of our collaborators from Stellenbosch. They also did some work in the region studying, the NTMs. And the Tuba, we used to, engage a lot in terms of how the department can, work with us in terms of, ensuring that we do proper management of TB in the region. And wanted to use, the work that we're doing there as a pilot, for the country. And we also need to establish a national NTM monitoring system, especially working closely with the NICD, because they are very, very important when it comes to this. And then focus on capacity building for healthcare workers, because I remember the first time when we had a meeting with the heads of healthcare facilities in the area, and we asked them about, this non-tuberculous mycobacterium. We asked them if they were aware if there's any circulation of the non-tuberculous mycobacteria in the region, and they said, we've never heard of that, we don't know of that, and these are people that are busy helping people every day. When people come to the healthcare facilities, coughing, sweating, showing all those symptoms, of TB, they would assume that, okay, they're suffering from TB, and then put them on treatment, and find that the patients are not responding to the treatments that are being given. And then after time, they would say, oh, you're not responding to the first-line TB drugs. We're going to give you the drug-resistant treatment. And some of the patients, were losing their lives. So healthcare workers needs to be trained so that we can ensure that, patients' lives are in good hands. So this will improve, the diagnostics and patient outcomes, which is very important. So for dissemination, I'm going to go quick. Sorry. So for dissemination, stakeholder engagement, as I've mentioned, the Department of Health, NICD, we need to train our healthcare workers. We need to publish our findings. And we also need to present our findings at conferences, such as this one. And also community awareness, to say to community members that sometimes when one of your family members or a relative or friend or colleague, being given these TB treatment regimens, and you find that they're not getting any better, perhaps it would be nice, to move towards, because nowadays we're in the era of precision medicine, to move towards precision medicine and make sure that we check if whether they are not actually suffering from non-tuberculous mycobacterium. Yeah, thank you. I would also like to thank Dr. Sobane and Refilwe Mashego for the wonderful work that they've been doing with us, teaching us about, these policy briefs from scratch. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I invite you to please write down your questions. We'll be going through to the next presentation. I'd like to introduce Dr. Nokubonga Makanya and Yolisa, who will be doing the poem aspect of her presentation. Dr. Makanya is a policy fellow at the National Research Foundation. She holds a PhD in chemical engineering, specializing in material science, renewable energy, and sustainability. Her current academic expertise span energy storage, machine learning, applications in renewable energy, and biotechnologies. She's actively engaged in research on climate change and mitigation strategies. She's committed to fostering interdisciplinary collaboration and partnering with researchers, policymakers, and industry stakeholders to drive sustainable energy transitions. Thank you.
"350 Grant" by Kirsten Dean. This is a poem that has been taken from Nokubonga's policy brief and turned into a human story. Through a crisis, they're supporting the vulnerable, the ones in pain, the hungry ones, the desperate ones. But there are always shortcomings we must address to step into resilience. Inclusivity, transparency, equality to make a new program. Robust social protection, leaving no one behind, with a relief grant from government, supplementing for poverty, the COVID-19 special grant. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good day, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, can I have my presentation put up, please? My slides, sorry. Today's policy brief is going to be very brief. I'm not going to be long. Normally when I present, I am too technical, but then with this policy dissemination, I chose to navigate other aspects of themes like your wellness and social relief grants. So as Ms. Kitu has introduced me, my name is Nogubonga Makanya, and I am a DSCI NRF fellow. So let me speak my mind, because this was like a pandemic which affected like the whole world. So during the COVID-19, we were not ready, the world was not ready. And South Africa faced a lot of challenges. Sorry, this is not my, it's not my policy brief. Okay, it's fine. At that time, as a country, we faced a lot of challenges. There were no policy in place which were specifically addressing the social relief grants, which are for crisis. The only ones that we had, it was the normal ones like your child support grants and your old age pension grants. So in order for the government to respond, they had to introduce this grant to relieve the hard economies from people who lost their jobs, losses, and during the lockdown and when the government declared the national state of disaster. So the policies that were in place at that time, it was they were said right there and there. The first one was a person must apply online. It was only digital, only access, which was excluding the people who are living in rural communities and also those without internet access. And also the second, it was the limited, the barriers. Oh, sorry, can I refer? Can I refer to the first slide? Sorry, yes. And then with the administrative delays. So with the administrative delays, the beneficiaries, they faced major delays due to slow processing of the government agencies. So to address this crisis and for the next pandemic, for the country to be ready for the next, sorry, way, down? Oh, okay. So for the country to be ready for the next pandemic, we have, I have set a few sets of recommendations where a government should Okay, this problem is relevant to policy discrepancy related to social welfare, public administration, and digital accessibility. And then the policy context of it, as I've mentioned before, is the legislative framework and the regulatory acts that were adopted to develop the the distribution of the funds to the beneficiaries. So we do need to change the current policies when it comes to the social relief and the wellness systems, because when we do that, we'll be addressing the gap. Also, you part out a way of poverty. So what actions that needs to be taken. The government needs to implement and provide funding, and also the private sectors, the businesses needs to be involved in order through skill building and training the citizens, and also the civil society and academia, they need to be involved for their oversight and research. And then lastly, the citizens and beneficiaries, they need to be actively involved in skill building and also taking accountability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonga. I'd like to call up Dr. Thapelo Mofokeng. Dr. Mofokeng is a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Witwatersrand and is actively involved in research and policy development within the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. His work focuses on finding new and better ways to improve energy storage by exploring innovative solutions to address critical challenges in renewable energy, batteries, nanotechnology, and electrolysis. With numerous publications in high-impact journals, Thapelo has established himself as a promising researcher in his field. His work not only advances scientific knowledge, but also aligns with the national and global priorities for technological development. Thank you, Thapelo.
All right, thank you, Kitumeti. I'm waiting for the presentation. Oh, this is the one. Can you hear me? Sorry. I'm not even sure this is my presentation. Good afternoon, colleagues. Like I was introduced, my name is Thapelo Mofokeng, and today I'm here to share my policy brief. So South Africa is known or regarded as one of the mineral powerhouses in the continent and globally. We are blessed with some of the critical minerals, especially nowadays in the age or era of portable electronic devices and renewable energy. Yet, about 80% of our energy still comes from fossil fuel-based energy sources like coal. And we know the disadvantages of coal, that it's old and also it causes air pollution and also harm the environment. So it's like having the ingredients to make a feast, but yet you still choose to use a paraffin stove to cook. So besides the implications of fossil fuel-based energy as a major source in our energy generation, we also have a problem with our utility power station, our utility company, which is Eskom. We know the issues about Eskom in terms of the mismatch between the demand and the supply, and also some of the decommissioning of their plants due to infrastructure and lack of maintenance. So this issue of load shedding, we know what it leads to, business suffering, economical insecurities, and so on. And then the industries that we check that are still using these fossil fuel-based energy sources to generate or run their plants, they faces a high carbon tax, and that can threaten their overall revenues and also some of the employment security. So I have to accept that in the past 10 to 15 years, we've moved towards renewable energy, where we use the sun and the wind as a source of energy. So we know that solar and wind energy, they are very good, they are abundant, and they are cheap. However, they are intermittent in nature. So the unfortunate part is that we cannot shine the sunshine when we want or blow wind wherever we want, especially at peak, high energy peak demand. So to overcome that, renewable energy sources like solar and wind, they need to be coupled with energy storage devices. And that's where I come in here, using battery technology. So batteries can make this renewable energy more sustainable and dependable. So, sorry about that. So based on our policies, we have great policies in South Africa, and especially in terms of renewable energy. If you look at the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan, it favors the adoption of renewable energy as one of the electricity generating technologies. However, my issue is that it focuses its battery storage on lithium-ion batteries. They are the state of the art. Those are the batteries we have in our phones and laptops. However, lithium resources are depleting over the world, and the cost of lithium is going high. So the document itself, it neglects some of the new technologies like zinc-ion batteries, which is where my research focus is and where I think there's a mismatch in terms of policy alignment. Other documents like mineral beneficiation strategy, they focus or speaks a lot about beneficiating our minerals in the country. Yet, the SRM document speaks about exporting batteries, which I believe we have the capabilities of starting to manufacture batteries in-house. So the type of batteries I speak about or I focus my work on is zinc-ion batteries. They are similar to lithium-ion batteries in terms of performance and how they work. But the most important thing is the minerals that are involved in making the components of these batteries. So the critical minerals are zinc and manganese. And if you check, globally we have about 80% manganese reserves. If you look at the yellow part here in the map, it shows some of the mine and the deposit of manganese. And if you come specifically to Mpumalanga here, there's a company called Mpumalanga Mineral Corp, which plays a role in manganese battery projects. So if we can create batteries within house, manufacture, we will be able to create jobs and improve our economy instead of focusing on importing already made expensive batteries. This also speaks the same to national development, which calls for local manufacturing and creating jobs. So I think in terms of policy, these three documents are good, but there's a mismatch or misalignment. And if we can focus on our mineral beneficiation strategies, we can at least make them to speak the same thing. So what are my policy proposal solutions? SRM is a live document, so it can be amended every time. So I think policy decision makers, they need to amend the document and include technologies like zinc-ion batteries as one of the top priorities. And then this will help in terms of speaking to mineral beneficiation, where we can beneficiate these natural resources that we have. And also government agencies and private sector, they have to start funding and piloting projects regarding aiming at zinc-ion batteries. We have different government agencies like DSTI, DITC, and SANIDI, which focus on energy and energy storage related projects. So as evidence supporting this technology over others, you can see this table shows a performance comparison of different batteries, including lithium ones, sodium, lead acid, which we use in our cars, and some other types. So the most important thing about a battery is that it needs to be safe, cheap, and also recyclable. So if you speak to circular economy. And we see that compared to lithium-ion batteries, which are below here, zinc-ion is highly safe, it's highly recyclable. And in terms of other performance metrics, it matches the current state of the art, which are lithium-ion batteries. And then in terms of cost of manufacturing or packaging, you can see that it's relatively low compared to these other types of batteries, including lithium-ion based. And also all the components that make the battery, they are relatively cheap as compared to lithium-ion batteries. This is because it uses abundant cheap materials, and that God blessed us in South Africa with. So we need to take advantage of them. So how do we go about implementing or trying to implement or help the government? I've designed a small roadmap here. So the first step, in a short term, 1 to 5 years, we can start by doing robust R&D to overcome some of the issues regarding zinc-ion batteries. We can also start initiating pilot projects in high renewable energy regions like Northern Cape. And then on the medium term, department agencies like the DTIC can establish local manufacturing, and also research councils can provide the technical support needed to upscale this technology. In the long term, also government agencies and the private sector can start to integrate these batteries, because in terms of performance, they can work. They are comparable to the state-of-the-art lithium-ion batteries, and they are very way cheaper than the lithium-ion batteries. And also private sector can help build EV charging stations, because I think that's where the future is. is going. Electric vehicles are inevitable, I guess. So in terms of my dissemination plan, this is how I plan to disseminate. My target audience, obviously, are policymakers, which are mostly government agencies and private sector, industry leaders, and energy researchers. Channels to go about it is through publications, presentation in policy forum like this ones, government white papers, academic conferences, and industry roundtables. So thank you. I would like to thank these following agencies, for the invite, the funding, and the opportunity to present this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thapelo. I'd like to call up Dr. Phuthi Mwepe, the last presenter for the day. Dr. Mwepe is a semiconductor physicist who completed his studies at the University of Pretoria. He has lectured various first-year and honors physics modules at different universities. He's currently a postdoc at the DSTI in the Space and Science Technology Chief Directorate. He has published a number of papers in peer-reviewed journals and presented his work at various national and international conferences. He has been involved as a judge at the ESCOM Expo International Fair with a view of contributing towards the development of young learners in the field of science. Thank you, Phuthi. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Itu, for the introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the interest of time, I'll be very short and straight to the point. Okay, so yeah, so let me just again just thank the NRF and the HSRC for creating this platform for us to come and give or at least go through this program, as well as the DSTI, Department of Science, Technology, and Department of Science, Technology and Innovation for the opportunity, for hosting some of us there. Okay, so enabling Africa's inclusive and sustainable development. Okay, I think this is the theme of this conference, and so in order for us then to achieve this goal, we need to have the kind of supporting infrastructure and enabling tools for us to do that in the various fields that are relevant for us to have. So, okay, I don't think the slides are up yet, but so the, okay, so the, okay, so some of the fields which have been mentioned are fields relating to, for example, agriculture, climate change, safety and security, and so on. In order for us then to execute those, as I've said, we will need tools which we can use in order for us to make sure that those are ultimately achieved. And so today then I just want to talk about, within the South African perspective, and also maybe reaching out continentally and globally, is just enhancing the South African space sector through a dedicated online portal. Okay. So I've already spoken about the various applications in which we can use, we can have, where we can use this, the space industry, so we can use it in things like rural development and urban planning. We've already spoken about climate change, disaster monitoring and relief, and so on. And so then, having all of that, then we can just speak about a tool or a solution to do that, but we can just lay a foundation about how that can be achieved. So in South Africa, we have what is called the Space Affairs Act, and basically that regulates the space affairs in our country. And within that, we also have the National Space Policy. And the policy, the number of objectives, two of which would be to improve the coordination of various role players so that we minimize the duplication of resources, and also to create a coherent network which can be able to be used to streamline space sector applications. And also, one of the other objectives is to promote just the awareness of the space sector. And so I basically then want to just hop on those two objectives. So I've spoken about the Space Affairs Act. So the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition basically sets the regulation and policy in terms of the space sector, and the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, DSTI, is the implementing department of this act. And so there are various role players that are involved in the space sector. So different departments, for example, we have departments, I've spoken about the DSTI and the DTIC, but we also have, for example, the Department of Communication and Digital Technology, which gives out licenses. So we've seen recently talks about the Starlink, which wants to offer communication within South Africa. So that is one place in which, one department that deals with space. And so there are a whole lot of related institutions and other research institutions, funding institutions, the private sector and so on, who are involved in this, in the space sector. So what I'm proposing is that we can we produce an online portal which basically would act to supplement this the objectives of the Space Affairs Act. And so here we would have different stakeholders who are able to contribute to this portal, where we would have different resources which are put on the portal, things like events that we might have, also information regarding educational information, where people, the general public and learners and even scholars can engage on, as well as have things like real-time data and so on, which people would be